Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy battle reports, and this one is battle report number 45. It is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between myself as well as my friend Brother Grimm. He's bringing Waaaghpokeylipz Now, a 3,000 points Orcs and Goblins army, and I'm bringing my Fellhold Nations, my 3,000 point Dwarf army. So I'm really excited to do this one. It's a good old-fashioned grudge match between Dwarves as well as Orcs and Goblins, and we're putting it at a very large scale with a grand army of 3,000 points apiece. My friend Brother Grimm is also bringing Grimgor Ironhide, the incarnate of beasts, as his general for this army, so it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly how it kind of works out for me in this one. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what both sides are bringing, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. Let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Alright, let's go talk about the scenario rules real quick. We are playing a battle line scenario, so standard deployment rules as well as standard victory conditions apply for this scenario. It's our most favorite type of battle to play, and it's also the most common type of battle there is for Warhammer Fantasy. Alright, so with the scenario rules over with, we go directly to the battle plan, and as you can see, we're playing on a 4x6 table. I am on the near side of the table while my friend Brother Grimm is deployed on the far side of the table. Now, pretty much the tactic I'm going to use for my 3,000 point Dwarf army is exactly the same tactic I've always used for my entire army for all my battle reports so far. And I'm playing a Dwarf gunline list, so for me to move across the battlefield to engage my enemy is not in my best interest. Pretty much I'm just going to lay back, wait for him to march across the battlefield, whittle his forces down with some long-range fire, and then finish him off in close combat if I can. So as you can see, a bulk of my army is kind of laid out between the river on the left-hand side as well as a series of ruins on the right-hand side of the table. The ruins are going to do a good job protecting my right-hand flank, so I'm putting up my warriors, my hammers there to protect my right-hand flank. And I have the bulk of my army in the center line with all of my missile troops aiming right down the barrel. Now, the only problem I'm going to have to face in this battle is that there's a lot of sight blockers spread throughout the entire battlefield. Especially in the middle of the table, you got forests on the right hand side, standing stones in the center, as well as a tower on the left hand side. So I will not be able to get the full range of fire like I want, but you know nothing's ever perfect when you want it to be, especially when you're doing battle. Same thing on the left hand side. You can see in the top I got my Bugman's Rangers. I use their scout special rule to put them right in the middle of the river. That way they can kind of catch any forces that march in between the tower and the standing stone. I can catch them in a crossfire and hopefully destroy them that way as well. And that's pretty much what my plan is for this battle report. Alright, so let's go and talk about deployment for the Dwarves real quick. On the left hand side, that is Bugman's Rangers. It is a unit of 19 Rangers with Bugman's Rangers upgrade for the unit, as well as Joseph Bugman, the special character. They're carrying great weapons. They have heavy armor, they have hand weapons and shields, they have crossbows, they have throwing axes. They're pretty much kit out to kill, and they're located here in the left hand flank of my army. Now as for my main battle line on the left hand side, that is the Decemberist of Winter's Past. That is my organ gun. It's got a rune of accuracy. Right next to them is Clan Helheim, the Fall of the Dragonbacks. That is a unit of 17 Dwarf Thunderers of full command, hand weapons and shield, as well as Dwarf handguns. Located in that unit on the left hand side, as you see in the top, that is Grim Borlaxson. Grim Borlaxson. I'm sorry, that's his name. These are special characters, also engineers, so that way he can lend some ballistics ability to the unit, or use his ballistic skills for the organ gun. Make up the center portion of my army. On the front, that is Clan Roadstalker. On the left hand side, that is a huge unit of 37 Dwarf Warriors with hand weapons and shields, also with full command. Located in that unit, I also have Ragnar the Spellbreaker. That's my Runesmith with level 2 Rune of Spellbreaking. I also have my hero, Yorick Shattershield, my Thane, who's a Battle Center Bearer with the Master Rune of Gregny. He's packing an Oath Stone as well as Great Weapon, Gromwell Armor as well as Shield. And then finally I have Lord Ivar Bodison, the Lord of Fallen Holds, who's my Dwarf General. He's a Dwarf Lord. He's mounted on Shield Bearers. He's carrying a Rune of Parrying as well as 2 runes of Fortitude, 1 rune of Iron, as well as, yeah, Shield Bearers too. So, you know, he's kitted out to basically be a tank. On the right hand side, that is Clan Izmir the Vengeful Ones. That is my unit of 18 Quarrelers. They're armed with Dwarf crossbows, great weapons, as well as heavy armor. They also have full command as well. And finally, making it my right-hand flank, that is Clan Greymane, the Chosen of Valhalla on the very far right-hand side. That is a unit of 19 Dwarf Hammers with full command. The Keeper of the Gate is carrying the Rune of Cleaving. Up in the front is Torstick Blackbriar. He is a Runesmith with Gromwell Armor, a Shield, as well as a Great Weapon, and he's packing 1 rune of Spellbreaking. And right next to them on the right-hand side of them is the Sorrows of Eld. That is a cannon that has a rune of Burning on it, as well as a rune of Forging. And behind that is the Rememberer by Dwarf Grudge Thrower with a rune of Penetrating. And that makes up my deployment for this battle report. Alright, so going for my friend, Brother Grimm, this is deployment. He's kind of going for a denied center, just focusing on the flanks. On the left-hand flank of his army, in the back, that is the War Boys. That is a huge unit of 39 Orc Biggins with hand weapons, shields, as well as light armor. They have full command, as well as a standard discipline. Located in that unit is also Ruga the Stunty Flare. That's his level 4 Orc Shaman. He's carrying Fencer's Blades, Talisman of Endurance, as well as the Crown of Command. He's also level 4 Lore of the Big Waaagh. And then right in front of them, that is the Ludas. That is a unit of 38 Goblins, Night Goblins armed with shield, short bows. They also have 3 Fanatics, I believe, full command. They also have the Shrinking Shroomhead, which is a level 2 Goblin Shaman who's got the Mask of Terrifying Mask of E, as well as a Dispel Scroll. And he's also got Hobgob, the Snagla, the Stinga, which is a Battle Standard Bearer who's carrying the Spider Banner for that unit as well. So absolutely terrifying to face. And finally is a photo of the right-hand deployment of his army as well as the center. In the center, he's got his 2 Doomdiver catapults. Those are the Kamikaze Boys. Right next to him, the right-hand side, that is the Immortals, a huge unit of 39 Black Orcs with full command. They also have the Razor Standards, so they have armor piercing as well. Not to mention, they also have Grimgor Ironhide, the Incarnate of Beasts, located in that unit as well. So that is absolutely a terrifying unit to go up against. That is going to be the focus of most of my firepower if I can, whittle it down. And then up in the front on the left-hand side, those are the Sneaky Gits. Those are a unit of 20 Night Goblins with full command, short bows as well as Fanatics. And the far right-hand side, that is the Backstabbers, which is another unit of 20 Goblins with full command, short bows, as well as 3 Fanatics. And that makes it my friend Brother Grimm's deployment. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and we roll for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so we go to top of turn number 1, and I managed to take the initiative on this one. And so this photo is taken after the movement phase, and no surprise for anybody, I say exactly where I'm located at because I'm Dwarves and there's no reason for me to start moving. We skip the magic phase because I don't use magic, because I use a real man's army, and we go directly to the shooting phase. And during the shooting phase, like I said before, there's a lot of sight blockers blocking a lot of my shots from my army to target his units. So what I first do is I use my Sorrows of Eld, and I realize I have a good line of sight right between the buildings to the alleyways directly to one of them Kamikaze Boys. So I open up the cannon, manage to bounce the shot right directly into it, and manage to destroy one of his Doomdiver catapults. So that part was pretty awesome. At the same time, I target the Ludas with both Bugman's Rangers as well as the Organ Gun, the Sorrows, the Decemberist of Winter's Pass. I also take aim with Clan Helheim. I use Grim Borlaxon's Masters of Ballistics ability onto his unit of handgunners, so that way they can extend their shots by d6 inches. So that way I can reach across the battlefield and hit them on that part. So as you can see here, I actually do a pretty good job for that unit. I actually kill, 17. Yeah, I managed to kill 17 goblins in the process of doing so. I was a little disappointed with my organ gun. I only managed to roll 4 shots with that one on this turn, so that was pretty lackluster. So, but at the same time, though, I got to whittle that unit down because it's carrying 3 Fanatics, and that's a terrifying prospect to go up against. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to break these guys. The reason why is because they're right next to their Battle Standard Bearer in that unit, so they managed to pass their panic test, and not much really happens from there. There is no combat phase because nobody was charged, so we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so that takes us directly to the bottom of the movement phase for turn number 1 for the Orcs and Goblins, and as you can see, there has been some dramatic movement. The first thing that my friend Brother Grimm decides to do is to march his Ludas and actually has him do a wheel march all the way 90 degrees towards my Bugman's Rangers. As you can see, they're trying to defend the left-hand flank of his War Boys. With that gap between the standing stone there on the top as well as the buildings on the right-hand side, he then marches the War Boys forward 8 inches. At the same time, on the right hand side, he marches the rest of his units forward. He marches those sneaky gets, as well as them backstabbers, moves them across the line of fortifications for the buildings towards the forest, and he also marches up forward his immortals as well. And he's using the forest there to kind of protect them from being shot at for the most part. And that pretty much makes it the movement phase on this one. Here's a close-up of the Ludas as well as the War Boys moving forward, trying to get towards my battle lines. The Ludas are going after Bugman's Rangers, while the War Boys are heading towards my main battle line. And here's a close-up of the Immortals as well as those sneaky gets and then backstabbers marching forward to assault my right-hand flank. And that pretty much makes the movement phase for this one. So the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And during the magic phase was absolutely horrible for me. My friend decides to cast a couple spells. At first he tries to cast Hand of Gork in order to teleport his immortals. I was able to dispel that one, but then he takes his 5 remaining power dice and he rolls Foot of Gork on that one. And as you can see in this photo, he goes for the big one too. And as you can see in this photo, my clan Roadstalker got pretty much cut in half. He killed 21 dwarves when it was all said and done. Here's the thing that was the crazy part about it, though. When he rolled for his Foot of Gork to see where to go, it pretty much stayed squarely within the lines of my clan Roadstalker. If it scattered like only 2 inches to the left, or scattered like 4 inches to the, and then it would scatter 4 inches to the right, which is put right back in the middle of the unit again, or a direct hit, or it would like go over another 2 more inches and stuff. In the end, that Foot of Gork spell stopped my unit 4 times in a row before that spell actually disappeared. And as you can see, 21 members of the clan Roadstalker are now dead, just squashed to pieces by a giant imaginary foot from an orc god. It was absolutely terrifying to see that happen. That was totally demoralizing. And luckily for me, though, I do pass my panic checks and none of my guys run away. But oh my god, that spell is the stuff of nightmares. Luckily for me, though, my opponent did roll a miscast in this part. He rolled a miscast 3.
Klaatu, Marada.
But for the most part, it pretty much worked out for him. It was a cataclysmic detonation. He does lose, I think, 5 or 4. I think he loses 5 is what ends up happening. Yeah, he loses 5 war boys. So because he loses a couple of members of his war boys, that's really about it. When he rolls to see if his wizard gets sucked into the warp or not, Ruga the Stunty Flare is just absolutely fine, and it pretty much ends his magic phase at this point. But you know, when it's all said and done, with all the damage he did against Clan Roadsucker, I'm thinking this pretty successful magic phase for my buddy, Brother Grimm. To make matters worse, during the shooting phase, he takes aim with his Doomdiver catapult from them Kamikaze boys and rolls a direct hit against my organ gun. As you see in that photo, the Decembers of Winter's Past just explodes and kills all the entirety of the crew members at the same time. So now my main crew killer is pretty much gone, which is absolutely terrifying to prospect against because a lot of my shooting on my left-hand flank is no longer there. So that was kind of tough. We skip the combat phase because there is none, and we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Dwarves. So we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Dwarves, and does anyone want to guess what happens for the movement phase? That's right, absolutely nothing, because there is no point for me to move because I'm a Dwarf gun line list. So as you can see, I keep everyone exactly where they're located at. I'm waiting for my opponent to march towards me. I don't even move Bugman's Rangers, and the reason why is because my goal is to shoot up that unit of Ludas with on the left-hand side, because if I charge forward with Bugman's Rangers, I run the risk of running into Fanatics, and nobody has the time for that. So, like I said before, I really just keep everything located where it is. Because of that, we skip the magic phase because Dwarves don't play that, and we go directly to the shooting phase. And as you can see in the shooting phase, it's actually a pretty successful shooting phase for the most part. I do open up on the Ludas with Bugman's Rangers. I think I managed to kill, I think 1 or 2 is what I ended up doing. I didn't do very good against that unit of Night Goblins. However, the nice part was they do have to take a panic check, and they fail their panic check. And as you can see in this photo, they flee about 10 inches to the right-hand side. So those guys start flying across the battlefield, getting away from Bugman's Rangers. So that part was pretty awesome. I then open up with Remember onto that unit of the War Boys, and I put it right directly on top of on top of Ruga the Stunty Flare, and lucky for me, I rolled a direct hit on that part. So because of that, he has to roll a 5 up for his ward save to make sure he doesn't get killed, and he rolls a 2. So because of that, he takes D6 wounds, and just like that, just like how the Foot of Gork smashed my dwarves, a boulder with some grudges on it squashed Ruga the Stunty Flare, managed to kill him as well. I also concentrated fire with my dwarf handgunners from Clan Hellhind and managed to cut that unit almost down to half. So I think there's only 22 of those guys are left, if I remember correctly. And I also killed his general too. Not his general, his level 4 magic caster. So that part was pretty epic. As for the rest of the shooting phase, it was not all that impressive. I actually missed a couple of my shots with my cannon, as well as I also concentrated fire a little bit with my my crossbowmen, my quarrelers against those sneaky gits. I do manage to kill 4 of those guys, so that part's kind of nice. However, I forgot to take a photo of it, but you can kind of see a couple of them missing there on the right hand side. And that pretty much makes the round. There's no combat, so we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins. So we go directly to the movement phase for turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins, and as you can see, my friend Brother Grimm still keeps on pressing his advantage. The first thing that he does, of course, is he marches forward to all of his units. On the left hand side, those sneaky gits as well as some backstabbers move through the forest. He also moves up the immortals, moves right behind that forest on the right hand side so that way they're protected. At the same time, he also marches forward the war boys. Now what he tried to do is try to march his guys between the tower as well as the standing stone, but unfortunately for him though, he was just a few inches shy of protecting his left hand flank. So because of that, it does expose his left-hand flank now to my Dwarf Rangers, and that's actually kind of good because I'm going to plan on targeting those guys into my march movement phase during my next turn and catch those war boys in the flank. At the same time, he also manages to rally his Ludas, so because of that, those guys turn around and take position right in the center of the table that they're located, right behind that standing stone, and continues to move them forward. Here's a close-up of those sneaky gits as well as the backscabbers as well as the immortals moving towards the forest, heading towards my right-hand flank of my army. And here's a close-up of the war boys as well as the Ludas marching towards my main battle line. And as you can see there, he just landed just 2 inches short of protecting his left-hand flank with his war boys with that tower. So that's going to cost him later on because I'm planning on charging Goblins Rangers directly into that unit. At the same time, for the magic phase, nothing much happens in the magic phase. I think he rolls like a 4 for his dice, for his power dice. So I was able to dispel all of it. At the same time, his shooting phase, the only thing that he could shoot was his Doom Diver catapult, but he missed, way off target, so wasn't able to hit anything as well. And because nobody's engaged in close combat, that pretty much makes up that turn. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Dwarves. Alright, so here is the top of turn number 3 for the Dwarves. As you can see, I've actually done some movement on this one, as odd as it may seem. So the first thing I do is I declare a charge with Goblins Rangers, and I make it directly to the left-hand flank of the War Boys. So because of that, the War Boys are now engaged in close combat with my Rangers. At the same time, I did declare a charge with Clan Roadsoaker. My plan was to do a long-distance charge across the battlefield towards those orcs. They were about 9 to 10 inches away, or I think it was 10 inches away they were, so, you know, it was worth the gamble, so I did roll my d6 and my 2d6 to make it happen, but unfortunately only ran forward like 5 inches, so I didn't go very far for that most part. I was trying to hopefully catch the war boys in a pincer attack and then destroy them that way, but that didn't end up working for me. At the same time, I take my Clan Greymane, the Chosen Valaya. I move them to the right a little bit so that way they can take on the charges from those sneaky gits as well as the backstabbers. I also march forward Clan Hellhind over to the right hand side. I kind of wheel them forward so that way they can start laying down some suppressive fire against those mortals as well as those goblins coming over the right hand side as well. And then everything else just kind of stays exactly where they're supposed to for my army. Here's a close-up of Clan Roadsucker as well as Goblins Rangers trying to engage those war boys, and at the same time you can see Clan Hellhind start moving over to the right hand side. And here's a close-up of Clan Greymane getting ready to accept the charge or to charge forward against the goblins assaulting on the right hand side. So with the move phase over with, we skip the magic phase and go directly to shooting. And the shooting phase was not as impressive as I was hoping for. I do manage to kill a couple of more members of the Ludas. I think I managed to plink off a couple of guys with a cannon, as I think was ended up doing that one. I also managed to kill about 4 more members of those sneaky gits as well with fire from my crossbowmen, so that part was kind of nice. I then also take aim with the Remember and have an open fire on the Immortals, centering the template right on top of Grimgor Ironhide. But unfortunately, the template scatters about 6 inches to the right-hand corner, so I managed to kill 2 members of the Immortals as well. So that's 2 less Black Orcs I got to worry about, but that is a huge unit of 40 Black Orcs I got to worry about, and so not looking very good at that part. So we go directly to the combat phase between Goblins Rangers as well as the War Boys, and as you can see, the combat was decidedly one-handed. It definitely was in my favor. I do lose 1 Dwarf Ranger at the end of the combat phase, but at the same time though, I managed to kill about 9 of the War Boys as well, so that part was completely atrocious for my opponent. And so with all the losses that he took, as well as a charge to the flank, he has to take a break test. He fails it and he flees, and like a moron, I pursue after them. And the reason why that is the case is because Well, I do manage to kill the rest of the war boys running them down. Because I'm within 8 inches of the Ludas, they release their fanatics. And unfortunately for me, all 3 fanatics, when they roll their 2d6 to see how far forward they go 9 inches forward, which means that all 3 fanatics just cut loose right through my dwarf rangers. So as you can see here, the fanatics are right behind my dwarf ranger unit. And originally I had 19 rangers when it first started off. And unfortunately, I lose 5 of them after it was all said and done. So I got kind of lucky, considering that I just took a full frontal charge from 3 fanatics. So that part I can't be too bitter about. And I was also pretty lucky because I did manage to survive my panic check. And the reason why I was able to do so is because when I rolled for my my ability for my unit for liquid fortification, I rolled leathered, so I got +1 toughness, and that was the only thing that saved my life on this one. If it wasn't for that, this unit would have been absolutely atomized by those 3 fanatics. So that was absolutely terrifying to see that happen. And so with that, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 3, or as I like to call it, the release the fanatic phase. And as you can see in this photo, the fanatics have just kind of flew across the entirety of the battlefield. The first thing that he does, he doesn't declare any charges, he just moves his forces forward. He marches up his, he moves up his sneaky gits as well as in backstab is only 4 inches. And by doing that, they're about 8 inches away from Clan Roadsulker as well as from Clan Grey Mane. So because of that, the fanatics get released as well. Luckily for me, for my dwarf warriors on the left hand side, those 3 fanatics rolled a 7, a 6, and a 5. So because of that, there's like this little line of fanatics heading towards my Clan Roadsulker. They didn't hit any of my guys, so I got really lucky on that one. However, when it came to the fanatics on the right hand side with them backstabbers, 2 of the fanatics went right through Clan Grey Mane, managed to kill 4 of my hammers, so that part was kind of sad. The third one just kind of stopped right in front of the unit. At the same time, though, for Bugman's Rangers, those 3 fanatics, one of them smashed into the tower, so he got killed, and then the other 2 went through through the Bugman's Rangers again, killing another handful of them. So I'm now like down to 10 Rangers in that unit as well. So that part was kind of rough. At the same time, he also just marches up, he does a quick reform with his Goblins from the Ludas and has them move them up their normal movement allowance, so that way they can take on Bugman's Rangers. And at the same time, he also marches up the Immortals. Now, if you notice, the forest there is missing, and the reason why is because I couldn't hold all my orcs if I was to put them on top of that. So because of that, that's why they're gone. So that's why we took the forest out, so that way Brother Grimm can move his forces right there, so that way they can take place in the battle. And that makes it the move phase on this one. Here's a close-up of the fanatics who just kind of tore right through Bugman's Rangers, and that part was kind of demoralizing. And you can also see that the Ludas have turned to face the Rangers, so that way they engage them in close combat. And here's a close-up of the fanatics as well as those sneaky gits making their way to the right-hand flank of the Clan Roadsulker. I got really lucky on that one that those fanatics didn't get into my main lines. And here's a close-up of the crazes that's taking place on the right-hand side with fanatics as well as the backstabbers making their way towards Clan Grey Mane. And now I got to worry about those fanatics charging to my war machines, because that's a very terrifying prospect. During the magic phase, he managed to concentrate all of his spells, the power dice, into the Locus of Gur, which is the spell that Grimgor Ironhide has as being the incarnate of beasts. I was unable to dispel it, so because of that, he has everything within 12 inches of Grimgor Ironhide has +1 strength as well as +1 toughness. So now all of his goblins have +1 strength. So they're now strength 4, toughness 4 goblins. His black orcs, I think, are strength 5, toughness 5, I think. So that's pretty terrifying. And those goblins on the Ludas on the left-hand side, they're also strength 4, toughness 4 goblins as well. And that's just absolutely terrifying to consider the fact that these things are tougher as well as stronger than they were before. So that was pretty terrifying. During the shooting phase, he does try to concentrate fire with those sneaky gits against Clan Roadsulker. I think he managed to kill 2 more of my dwarf warriors, so that part was kind of annoying. Emden Backstab has also managed to kill, I think, 1 or 2 of my Clan Grey Mane hammers as well, when it was all said and done after they fired their short bows, so that part was kind of annoying as well. And luckily for me, when it came to the Doomdiver Catapult, he fired a shot. The shot went way wild, and because of that, he loses out his ability to shoot this turn because he rolled a misfire on that part. And that very much takes care of the shooting phase on this one. Alright, so with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 4 for the Dwarves, and this photo is taken after the move phase. At this point, I decided to scream YOLO and decided to charge forward to start taking on some things. So first thing I decided to do is I charge forward with Bugman's Rangers. I do lose another Dwarf Ranger from charging across that Fanatic, but, you know, it was worth the risk because I got to destroy those Ludas because I just want to get into the left-hand flank of the Immortals, because my plan now is to swarm to that unit of Black Orcs and hopefully destroy it that way. And that's why I also charge forward my hammers from Clan Greymane. I do go through a Fanatic and I lose 2 more hammers to it, but like I said before, it's kind of a risk I have to take, because these are hammers against goblins, and it's only a unit of 20 goblins. I'm able to smash those guys, and hopefully I can then combat reform and then charge into the right hand flank of the Immortals as well and capture them in a pincer attack. At the same time, I do take Clan Roadstalker. I move them back a little bit for their marching, so turn them so that way they can get ready to I do a quick reform rather, so that way they can face the right hand side of everything that's coming towards them, and then the rest of my shooting elements just say exactly where they're at, because there is no point to move them. Here's a close-up of Clan Roadstalker as well as Clan Helheim and Clan Izmir. Just the only unit that moved was Clan Roadstalker, so that way they can start taking on anything that's coming their way. Here's a close-up of Clan Greymane charging directly into them Backstabbers, and I'm excited to see exactly how that combat goes. And here's a close-up of my Bugman's Rangers charging directly into the Ludas. Now, granted, these charges aren't great because I am taking Strength 4, Toughness 4 Goblins by doing this, but at the same time though, I'm hoping that my higher weapon skill and higher strength will bust through these Goblin units, so that way I can start engaging the Immortals, because that's a huge unit of Black Orcs, and I gotta take care of that unit too sweet. During the shooting phase, I concentrated fired against those sneaky gets. I managed to kill all of them except for 2 goblins, so needless to say, those guys break and they're running. Just to let you guys know, for the rest of the battle report, they don't end up recovering because they need to roll snake eyes in order for them to come back, so those sneaky gets are just running for the highway because they don't want to die anymore. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. Combat phase over here in the right hand flank between Clan Greymane versus the Goblins was absolutely horrible for my opponent. I managed to kill 9 Goblins when it was all said and done, and they managed to kill 2 of my dwarf hammers. And like I said, it's because I'm taking on Strength 4, Toughness 4 Goblins. So with my charge, as well as the 9 casualties I've put on them, as well as my standard, I beat these guys like it's nobody's business. So because of that, my opponent is forced to take a break test, which he fails. Then Backstabbers do run away, I think about 5 inches when they're fleeing. I don't decide to pursue because my goal is to actually try to intercept the Immortals. So because that, I test the restrain, and then my unit passes, and I turn them in such a way so that way they can face against the Immortals. I can either charge his right hand flank or take him on head on if I have to, so that part was kind of cool. And combat between Bugman's Rangers as well as the Ludas. I do manage to kill 7 goblins, and they do manage to kill one of my dwarf warriors, so needless to say, I do win this combat. My friend Brother Grim has to take a break test, which he fails, and I pursue with Bugman's Rangers. And not only do I manage to catch up and destroy the Ludas, I also overrun directly into the left-hand flank of the Immortals. Now because I got those guys on the flank. So hopefully I can tie up this unit for a turn, cause some casualties, and cause some things. I have no illusions of breaking this unit because I just don't have enough Dwarf Rangers to do it, but I am have enough Dwarf Rangers to kind of keep him there, and hopefully I can just kind of tarp hit him right there and have him prevent him from engaging in my units for a minute while I position my forces to better handle this huge unit of Black Orcs. And that pretty much makes it the combat phase on this one. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 4 for the Orcs and Goblins, and this photo is taken after the movement phase. And as you can see, not much movement really happens. The only reason why is because he only has 2 units really left on the board. The Immortals are currently engaged in close combat with Bugman's Rangers. He does move his Fanatics around. One of his Fanatics cuts through to Remember and managed to destroy my Grudge Thor, so that part was kind of sad. The other Fanatic, if I remember correctly, smashes directly into those ruins on the right hand side and doesn't make it. The other 2 Fanatics do manage to cut through. They just kind of manage to move around a little bit, getting closer to my main battle lines. For the most part though, the 3 Fanatics are just kind of located there in the middle of the battlefield. And at the same time, he does rally his Backstabbers, so those guys turn to 180, and now the tide is kind of turned because now they're in a perfect position to flank charge my Clan Greymane if I send them in. So I got some sharp choices coming up ahead here in a little bit. Alright, so here's a close-up of the battlefield. As you can see, that Fanatic destroyed my Grudge Thor, so that part was kind of sad. And here's a close-up of them Backstabbers turning 180 and rallying in order to charge against Clan Greymane. Now, during the magic phase, my friend does try to cast Grimgard Ironhide's Locus of Gur ability again, but this time I used the Spellbreaking Rune from Ragnar the Spellbreaker. Not only did I manage to dispel that one, but I also rolled a 4-up and managed to destroy the Locus of Gur ability, so that part was pretty awesome as well. So now my friend's magic phase is pretty much non-existent because he has no magic users. So we skip the shooting phase because his Doomdiver Catapult missed, and we go directly to the combat phase. And the combat phase was absolutely horrific for my Dwarf Rangers. The first thing I do is I declare a challenge with Joseph Bugman because, why not, right? It's a dwarf ranger. He's got hatred of orcs and goblins. Grimgar Ironhide is there, and hopefully I can tie him up. You know, that was my plan anyways. But I didn't really suspect to see how powerful Grimgar Ironhide was when he became the incarnate of beasts. That guy has 6 attacks with close combat, with always strikes first, and he's got +2 strength from his axe Gitsnick. So needless to say, he just destroyed Joseph Bugman, just decapitated that special character. I stood no chance whatsoever. He just killed him straight up. And I think you managed to wound me all 6 times too, so that part was kind of sad. So Joseph Bugman dies a horrible, horrible death from that. And then, of course, the rest of the combat between the Rangers as well as the Black Orcs continues. I do manage to kill 1 Black Orc, so yay, I guess. But they do manage to kill 4 of my Rangers as well, so that was horrible. Needless to say, I lost this combat with astronomical numbers against me. And as a result of that, I flee. And because I'm less than a quarter of my unit left, I need insane courage in order to rally. Just to let you guys know, for the rest of the battle port, my Rangers just keep on running because they never really recover from the whooping they just received from the Immortals. And that part was pretty bad. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of the turn for the movement phase. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 5 for the Dwarves, and this is the photo of the movement phase, and as you can see, I only do one thing, and I charge forward with my hammers, because if anyone's going to hurt that unit of Black Orcs and try to stall it for a turn, it's going to be them. Now, granted, by charging my Clan Greymane 4 with my hammers directly into the Immortals, I do open up the right-hand flank to the backstabbers to charge them to the right-hand side. So yes, that is true, but I only have 10 hammers left anyways, and by the way those Immortals will chop through those Rangers, they're not going to survive the combat anyhow, so it's worth the risk because I get to tie up those guys for a little bit, and hopefully I could also cause enough damage to whittle down that unit of Black Orcs down for a little bit if I'm really, really lucky. And so that's why it was worth the risk to me, so that's what I did. I sent them forward. Everything else stays exactly where they're located at because there's no reason for me to move forward with those fanatics in the way, and so that pretty much makes it the move phase. So with the move, and as you can see in the background there, the Dwarf Rangers, they just keep on fleeing because, you know, they need to roll snake eyes for them to rally. So with the move phase over with, we skip the magic phase and go to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, I kill those 3 fanatics. I opened up with Clan Helheim to kill 1, I used Clan Izmir to kill another one, and I used Grape Shot for my cannon to kill the 3rd one. So now the field is nice and clear and open. Because that's all I can really shoot at this turn, so, you know, them's the breaks, I suppose. Alright, so with that being said, that takes directly to the combat phase, and combat actually went pretty well for me. I do declare a challenge with Torchstick Blackspire, and of course Grimgar Ironhide meets up with them. Needless to say, Grimgar Ironhide just destroys my Runesmith like it's nobody's business, so that part was kind of rough. And I also managed to lose 1 Dwarf Hammer in the process of doing that at the same time. In return though, I do manage to kill, what is it, 9? Yeah, I think I managed to kill 9 Black Orcs when it was all said and done, so that part was kind of cool. Technically speaking, I do win this combat, but my opponent of course stands his ground because these are Black Orcs and Black Orcs don't run. And that pretty much makes the combat phase on this one. So with that turn over with, we go directly to the bottom of the turn for the Orcs and Goblins. And that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 5 for Orcs and Goblins. The only move he does is he charges in the backstabbers, has him charge directly into the right hand flank of my hammers. So that part's kind of sad. But then again, like I said before, these hammers are not long for the world. I'm just trying to whittle down as many Black Orcs as I possibly can. And so that way the rest of my warriors have a good better chance of dealing with those guys. Because once he destroys my hammers, he's going to try to declare a charge against one of my units. Either against Clan Roadstalker or against my cannon or against Clan Izmir. In which case, I will then flank charge him with the other units and just start surrounding his Black Orcs and hopefully kill him that way if I can. So that part was kind of sad for Clan Greymane. So needless to say, in the end of the combat phase, I think I managed to kill 1 or 2 more Black Orcs. That was all that was able to happen, but the Black Orcs as well as them backstabbers were able to finish off my Dwarves of the Hammers. They get killed to the last man, so that part was kind of sad. And the reason why is because those Orcs decided to switch up to great weapons, so that way they have a better chance of getting through my armor and also killing my Hammers, and they opened me up like a can of sardines, so that part was kind of sad as well. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 6 for the Dwarves. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 6 for the Dwarves, and as you can see, I don't move. There's no reason for me to, because I still have 2 units of shooters that are still left on the table, as well as a cannon, so forget charging in forward. I'm going to shoot these guys to pieces for as long as I can before they engage me in close combat, and that's exactly what I do. So I skip the magic phase and go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, I concentrate fire against the Black Orcs. I do manage to kill 4 more members of the Immortals, and I also managed to put 3 wounds onto Grimgar Ironhide with my cannon. I take aim with the Sorrows of Eld and open fire. My friend takes a roll for his Lookout Sir roll and fails, so because that he gets hit smack down with the cannon. He fails his ward save, so because that he gets 3 wounds put on him. If I managed to put one more wound onto Grimgor Ironhide, he would have been dead, which would have been awesome, but unfortunately that was not the case, so he is still alive. So that part was kind of sad. So with the shooting phase over with, there is no close combat, so we go to the bottom of turn number 6 for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so we go directly to the bottom of turn number 6 for the Orcs and Goblins, and there has been some movement. He declared charge with both of his units. He does manage to land the charge against the Sorrows of Eld, so because of that, my cannon crew has to go up against them backstabbers, and he also fails his charge forward with his Immortals as well, so they only go forward, I think, 4 inches. And as you can see in the background, you can see the force being put back because now I can, put that force terrain feature back as well. And so that part was pretty lucky. He declared his charge against Clan Roadsulker, so I didn't get a chance to stand and shoot any of my units, which is a pretty smart move for my opponent because I would have shot him if I could, but he fails his charge, ends up right there in the middle of the table. So we skip magic phase because he has none, and there's no shooting phase because his Doom Diver Catapult missed, and that takes us directly to the combat phase. So as you can see here, them backstabbers had no problem whatsoever just getting through the entire unit of the Sorrows of Eld. They managed to kill my entire cannon crew and overrun and go directly into the right-hand flank of Clan Izmir, so that part is kind of rough. And that takes directly to the top of turn number 7 for the Dwarves. Now I know what you're thinking, you're like, Commander CheapSkate, wait a minute though, shouldn't you be, the game should be over right now because only 6 turns? Technically speaking, you are correct on that assessment, but unfortunately, my friend and I were so caught up in the game, we forgot to keep track of the turns, so we thought we were in turn 6, when in fact we were actually in turn 7. So this turn pretty much makes up the entirety of the turn. For the move phase, I don't move any of my forces because I want to take some time to shoot at him some more. I open up, and this also goes directly into the shooting phase. We skip the magic phase because I don't have any magic. In the shooting phase, I do manage to kill, I think, 4 more Black Orcs is what I ended to do. Clan Hellline opens up with their handguns, managed to kill 4 more of those guys, so that part was kind of cool as well. And in the combat phase, his goblins do not manage to inflict a single wound against my troops, but he does lose 3 goblins in the charge afterwards, as we're all ascendant of the combat. If I remember correctly, I think I actually win by 2, I think is what ended up happening, because, no, I only win up, hold on. He charged, that's what he has, 1 for his charge, 2 for his flanks, he's got 3. That's right, I beat him by 1 because I have a standard rare, and that's actually what happened on that one. And unfortunately for my friend Brother Grimm, he does fail his break check for that. I do stand my ground and I don't move in my Clan Izmir. However, his goblins have to charge to those ruins, which is of course is dangerous terrain for infantry. And as you can see, he loses almost the entirety of his unit. He's only got 5 goblins left over by the time it's all said and done. So things are not looking very good for Brother Grimm on the right hand side. And that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 7 for the Orcs and Goblins. He declares a charge, and he actually succeeds with the Immortals, charging directly into Clan Roadsulker. So now because of that, those Black Orcs as well as my Dwarves are now engaged in close combat. We skip the magic phase as well as the shooting phase because the catapult also misses and goes way off and is unable to actually connect anything. So because of that, we go directly to the combat phase. And that takes directly to the combat phase. And the first thing that ends up happening is that my general, Lord Ivar Bodison, declares a challenge against Grimgor Ironhide, and my friend Brother Grimm accepts. Now, luckily for me, okay, hold up. He has 6 attacks, right? Now, just to show you how deadly Grimgor Ironhide is in close combat, he actually managed to wound me 5 times onto my character because he's strength 8 when you combine his strength 6 with the +2 from his great weapon. So that guy is an absolute maniac. Managed to put 5 wounds onto Ivar Bodison. I survived with just 1 wound remaining because of my shield bearers, as well as the runes I have for my character. Luckily for me, though, I was able to put the last wound I needed to onto Grimgor Ironhide, so because of that, I do kill my enemy's general. So that part was kind of nice. In the end, though, he did manage to kill 6 of my Dwarf Warriors, and I also managed to kill 3 of his Black Orcs. It's kind of a poor showing for my Dwarf Warriors, but then again, they are only armed with hand weapons and shield against Black Orcs. So that part was kind of sad. In the end, though, I do manage to fail the break test on this one, so because of that, I am forced to run, and unfortunately for me, I do fail my break test. So because of that, you lose Yorick the Shield Breaker because he's my Battle Standard Bearer, and if you break your course, your Battle Standard Bearer just vaporizes at that point. So because that I am forced to flee, I do roll an 11 to escape, so because that I move backwards 10 inches because you lose 1 inch for being dwarves, and my opponent I think rolls an 8 in pursuit. So because of that, as you can see here, his Black Orcs are just a couple inches right behind my main battle line, so that part was kind of brutal. So Black Orcs are no joke whatsoever. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us directly to the end of the game, and we're calling this one a draw. Now, if you're wondering why is it a draw, Commander CheapSkate, when you have significantly more dwarves left on the battlefield than my opponent does, we're going to talk about that in the after action report, because there was a big mistake that we actually made in this battle report looking back on it. And so, even though, okay, when we played the game, when we were playing at the time, we declared me being the winner because I had more dwarves left on the table. But after I was starting to make this battle report, I realized we made a huge mistake in this battle, and I'm going to explain about what that mistake was here in a little bit in the after action report. So because of that, on this one, I am declaring it a draw.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright, so now it's time for the after action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn from the next time we do battle. This is the after action report for the Golden Age Dwarves vs. Orcs and Goblins Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report number 45, and I'm calling this one a draw. And I'll explain as to why I'm calling this one a draw here in a second. When it comes to my losses, I end up losing Yorick Shadow Shield, Torchstick Blackbriar, Joseph Bugman, Clan Greymare, the Chosen of Valhalla, Bugman's Rangers, the Remember, as well as the Sembrus of Winter's Past. For my Bren Brother Grimm, he lost Ruga the Stunty Flare, Hobgrob the Stinga, the Shrink and Shroomhead, the Ludas, the Sneaky Gits, the War Boys, one of them Kamikaze Boys, as well as Grimgore Ironhide. Alright, and the reason why I'm calling this one a draw, even though technically speaking I won, is for one important reason. The reason why is because my friend's army list actually included a giant. That giant's name was Undead Fred Endaloon, and he forgot to put him on the battlefield, and I forgot to put him on, I forgot to remind him about it as well. So because of that, I didn't realize he made a mistake on his list until I started actually doing this battle report. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh snap. Now, personally, I don't know. I don't know if the giant would have made an impact on the game or not. To be honest, I probably would have just shot him off the board with one of my war machines. But you never know. So because of that, I'm calling this one a draw, just because that giant could have made the difference in this game or whatever. So we really don't know. In the end, though, my friend Brother Grimm came very close to destroying me in this game. He's actually come more closer than anybody ever has, and aside from Smells Like Febreze, who destroyed me in a 1,000 point game. And the reason why is because, like I said before, he used excellent tactics of attacking my flanks. He went after my flanks and started going straight toward the center, because that's what the weaknesses are in a dwarf gun line. Speaking of some of the things that he did, that Foot of Gork spell, as well as fanatics that he has in his armies, are the stuff of nightmares, and those things will always haunt my dreams because they threw a monkey wrench in all my plans. The Foot of Gork nearly destroyed my clan Roadsucker, so that part was kind of scary. At the same time, his fanatics also mitigated most of my shooting ability because I had to spend time concentrating fire with my shooters against those fanatics. That way I can start taking out the rest of his army. Grimgore Ironhide, especially when he's the incarnate of Beast, is a nightmare. He is an absolute killer in close combat, and that Locus of Gur spell is a huge buff for Orcs and Goblins, especially if you're fighting against a huge mob of Strength 4, Toughness 4 Goblins. That thing was terrifying to go up against. However, like I said before, I'm calling this one a draw, and the reason why is because a lot of mistakes were made in this battle report. We went one extra turn than we were actually supposed to. Also, my friend didn't have a monster he was supposed to have in his army list, so because of that, I'm just calling it a draw. And it was a fun game to begin with anyways. It was extremely fun to play, and it was also extremely challenging for me as well, which in my opinion are the best kind of battle reports on this one, and I can't wait for the rematch to fight against Brother Grimm again. Now, with this one, with my Fellhold Nations, I've fought 8 battles so far with my Fellhold Nations, and of those 8 battles, I've achieved 6 victories, 1 loss, as well as 1 draw. And while this army has been a lot of fun to play, I'm actually going to put this one on the side for a little while, and the reason why is because if you've been watching my hobby side videos, I've been working on a Chaos Legion of Nurgle army. I now have fully completed 2,000 points painted for that army, so because of that, I'm going to play with that army for a little while, because I've always wanted to see what it's like to play Chaos Legion Nurgle, and I can do that, so that's exactly what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to add that to one of my, all I have to really do now is add one more unit to my army, and it will actually be at higher point values once I get my my Rotflies painted up. So because of that, I'll be playing for that guy, those Chaos Legion for a little while as well. As always, you guys, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Google+, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all these greatest news about the hobby. That's good for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. We will catch you guys on the next one.